me now. Hi, how's everybody doing tonight? Good, good. Sorry, McCade, I wore heels. When I decided to do this, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. When I decided to do this, I think it was around Groundhog Day, and I did not know that there was going to be 6 more weeks of winter. I thought that by now hibernation would be over. Today came, and I was like, okay, here we are. I better put pants on. So, but I made it, and you made it too, and we're all here, and we're all wearing pants. I'm proud of us. I have ADHD. Does anyone here have ADHD? Woo! And look, you're so on time. I also have autism. Anyone else? Thank you for that. I'm impressed you left the house. I am also pansexual. Anyone else here? Yeah. Really, when you think about it, is there anything more autistic than someone coming into a room full of new people and saying something that makes you wonder if you want them to keep talking? I made that joke at our tryouts, and I got some very gentle feedback that I should probably move it to later in my set so that I could win you all over before I made you laugh about that. But I loved that feedback because it was just like chef's kiss, made my point. I really do. I am just kidding. I love Spanish Fork. I like Utah County. I love how it's known for being so open-minded. I love all the diversity here. It's just opened my eyes to the whole spectrum of what humans can be. I won't talk the whole time about my sexuality, but I do feel like I should let you know, as someone who is autistic, we often take things literally, but pansexuality actually has nothing to do with pans. For those who don't know, pansexuality means that I'm not all that worried about gender when it comes to who I'm attracted to. When it comes to whether or not I'm attracted to someone, it really, to me, what matters is the size of their desire to feed me grilled cheese. It's a big bonus if they have a therapist. I think pansexual people get a bad rap where people think that we're promiscuous. But I am the autistic kind of pansexual, which means that I am much more likely to fall in love with my weighted blanket than I am to fall in love with any human. Humans have expectations. Humans want you to text them back. My fantasies mostly involve noise-canceling headphones and a lack of overhead lighting. So if I'm going to tell you jokes about autism, I should probably let you know a little bit about it, because apparently you neurotypical people don't do research in your free time. I think that's weird. How else do you know what facts to share at parties? How else do you have enough information to just word vomit on someone without any ability to gauge their lack of interest in what you're saying? But I do think that a lot of people have an outdated kind of vision or idea of what autism is, and I think that they usually picture a man. And I think they picture somebody who's, not very emotional or who has some difficulty with empathy. Maybe they're really logical or rigid in their thinking. And I will say, it's hard to describe what an autistic person looks like or acts like, because if you've met one autistic person, you have met one autistic person. It's a spectrum for a reason. But in a nutshell, I like to educate too. In a nutshell, what autism means is we have a more complex nervous system. Literally, our brains have more neurons. We have more neural pathways. I think that's why it's really bright right now. And so a lot of times we experience things in the extremes because there's just more that we feel and more, pathways that our brains can go down. And so we kind of swing to either extreme. We can either have high ability or low ability to kind of discern the subtext of what people are saying. Some of us have hyper empathy, and we have such a deep sense of justice that when we hurt when we see other people hurting. Others of us have such a hard time putting ourselves in people's shoes that we become unelected officials who fire thousands of federal employees on our first day of work. By the way, we don't claim him. Every autistic person I know is like, I don't know that guy. I'm on a completely different part of the spectrum from President Musk. And I think that's why people are pretty surprised when I say I'm autistic. I experience emotion very deeply. Like they said, I became a therapist. When I listen to the news, I cry. When I hear about dogs protecting their owners, I cry. I have what I call cryolautism. Having both ADHD and autism is wild. It really is like a tug of war internally. The ADHD half of me wants to, frolic in the wildflowers and plant a greenhouse full of vegetables that I know I'm never gonna eat. My autism does not want to leave the house, wants to be under a blanket, and wants to only eat Kraft mac and cheese. The kind with the characters. It tastes better, right? I'm not the only one. The only thing those two parts of me can agree on is that they don't want to eat vegetables. One half of me loves to make plans and go to parties. The other half loves to cancel plans. I can't wait to cancel plans. One of those parts likes to sign up for stand-up comedy night. The other half of me is very mad at me right now. You really want to know what it's like? It's like if SpongeBob and Squidward were roommates in a hot girl's brain. I did not know that I was autistic until just a couple of years ago, which is wild to me. But I think that's a really common experience for women. Women are a lot of times diagnosed later in life, if at all. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that the criteria in the diagnostic manual was based on little boys who, are very different from me. And I think another one of those reasons is that, and the research shows this, that little girls are socialized in a very specific way, and we internalize a lot of our autistic traits pretty early on. And so there's a lot happening internally that nobody really ever gets to see. And so when I was growing up, I thought that I was someone who liked to have the spotlight on me. I am not. I was always trying to get people to see the really, positive parts of me so that I could make friends. And so I thought I enjoyed attention. But what I learned, and I'm learning, is that I actually really prefer to be in the background, and I don't like to be perceived. And so recently I went to a hot yoga class. Has anyone ever done that? Yeah? It's really fun to sweat in front of other people. I actually loved it because it's in a dark room. Sometimes they'll have a candle lit. You can just sweat it out, get out, I hear a lot of stories throughout the day, and I can just focus on me. Nobody knows I'm there. Except one day. I was realizing that I was getting a little bit dizzy. And so I was like, oh, I need to stand up and get out of this room before all of these people see me, pass out or something. Turns out that's not what you're supposed to do. I left the room, I was walking, and I just heard a clatter on the floor. And I don't know what happened, but when I woke up, I heard, I think she just passed out outside on the door. And suddenly I'm like looking up and my vision is kind of coming back to me, and two people rushed out and they were like, hey, I'm an EMT. There's this guy, he was kind of handsome. He was like, I'm an EMT, let me help. And there was a girl and she was like, I'm a nurse, I'll help. And there they were, and I was just coming to this, and I was just horrified that this was happening to me. I was surrounded by people, and then they put a cold rag on my head, and they start flirting with each other. Both of them had wedding rings, by the way. I did not want to be a part of this. But they're like, where do you work? Oh, I work here. What do you do? Oh, cool. How did you learn? And I'm just lying there, and I'm just like wanting to slither out of there. But I actually got very lucky. Because when I had fallen, I ended up hitting, they had a coat rack or coat hooks, and I hit right here when I fell, almost right in my eyeball. Gave me a black eye, but nothing too bad after that. But I was fine. I was very, very lucky. I didn't hit my head too hard. But I learned after that if I want to come back here and shavasana in the dark ever again, I couldn't disappear anymore. Everybody knew who I was. And the instructors didn't really know who I was, but I think they looked up my reservation, because every time I came back after that, they would say, hi, Sam. That's not what I go by the way. So, hi, Sam. And then the next instructor on a different day would be like, Sam, you are doing so great. That's really good form, Sam. Even the other people they knew, they'd never say their names. And so by the time 3 different instructors were calling me Sam and telling me what a sweetie I was, I knew they had had a meeting about me. And so what I have learned is, it is not my favorite thing to be perceived, but I do enjoy, I work through it. I've learned that yoga is, part of it is accepting what is, and so I'm working on the practice of accepting that my new reality is that I want to relax and exercise. I get to do it in stretchy pants in front of everyone, getting called the wrong name. Anyway, thank you for perceiving me tonight. Please don't make eye contact on the way out.